that's exactly what we're going to do today. My goal is to provide you with some thought-provoking questions and help you create or even start creating a plan for yourself, because as you know, moving is very stressful, and it's even more stressful when you are in your golden years and you are older, and there's lots of things to consider. My name is Olga St. Pierre. I am a senior real estate living specialist. My focus and specialty is working with seniors, those that are 55 and older, and their families, to help you consider and prepare for those golden years in your retirement. You will have my contact information as well as a list of everything that I do and how I work and what I'm passionate about. And I've been working with seniors and helping them move, downsize, and figure things out to have a fulfilling retirement for the last 16 years. And we do that with creating a custom plan for each person, providing free resources, and just being there for you from start to finish to help you ease your anxiety and to just make it as stress-free as possible. And part of that is our concierge service. Think of it this way: all of you have individual circumstances, individual situations. And I consider myself, for the just as a general kind of comparison that you can use, is Yellow Pages. I am your virtual Yellow Pages. I think one of the things that a lot of older adults do is they look for advertisements, they look at the newspaper, and then they just Google for information online. And it's not often the most efficient way to find someone who is truly professional, that is going to be courteous, that will have the communication and actually do the job. So I encourage you to reach out to me. We provide these resources free of charge, and we're happy to point you in the right direction to find out where you can get the information that you're looking for. So a little bit about us. And the reason why I do this workshop on a regular basis, especially when partnering and working with seniors on a regular basis, is as a result of me working with my wiser and older clients over the years. Moving is one of life's top 10 stressors. And if you think about it, the home that you've had is now going to be too big, and maybe there's too many steps and too much to clean and too much stuff. And that's what we're talking about. And also, I want you to also be open-minded and realize that as you grow wiser and older, as you go through your life journey, you're going to have different periods and different stages, and those stages are going to have different priorities. There may be health challenges, and that means you may have some new decisions to make. And quite often, what clients have shared with me is that they're all lonely, they're overwhelmed. Sometimes they feel helpless, frustrated, and then they end up not doing anything, or unfortunately waiting until the decision has to be made and they don't have a choice. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, it is not the place that you want to be in. So today, my goal is to help you and ask you some honest questions. But my job, again, is to be your advisor and to help you along. And these are some of the questions that I'm sure that a lot of you are asking. And my suggestion to you is to jot some of these down when you have the time. Not right now, because you don't need to do that, because I'm going to give you the recording and the workbook. So, but these are the questions that I'm going to touch upon today a bit, just a bit, to give you an idea, because the goal is, again, this is to be an overview. And then I do hold some other workshops that we dive in a little bit deeper into some of these questions. So for a lot of you guys that know me well, here, let me show you. I'm a big believer in notebooks and notepads. I really am. And there is a science behind this. See, I have a notepad depending on what I'm working on. And I also have a big this is, I think, the 3-subject notebook. Yes, it is. A 3-subject notebook to jot things down that pertain to my business. I also have a separate notepad that is for my personal thoughts, things that are with my children, and some other things. And I encourage you that if you are embarking on the journey of planning for retirement or figuring things out on what do I do next, you should have some kind of notepad or notebook that is dedicated to this planning. The research has shown that the information that you take from your brain, the things that you are thinking about, and you commit them to paper, is going to help you create that plan. And also it's going to ease the burden of your brain of keeping things on your mind, which is what a lot of the times is causing you to be anxious and frustrated and overwhelmed, because you have all these thoughts and ideas running in your head. And a lot of times it's like it's like a hamster in the wheel. It's just nonstop, right? So a lot of these things are kind of floating in our mind in the subconscious level, and think of it that way, as it's like the computer that we're on, and the phone or a computer that you're on. There is a system that is working in the background that makes your computer or your phone to run well, right? Is that operating system. Well, our brains, a big part of them is that operating system to help us function well. Well, if we crowd it with the information for it to remember, at some point the operating system, right? We know that the computers and the phones, they start kind of like hiccuping and they're not working well. And then we have to restart them or we have to clean them out. Well, our brains are the same way. At some point we get overwhelmed, overworked, and we need to just take some of this information out and relax. So this is why I strongly believe that you grab a physical notebook, pen and paper, and use this to help you in your journey. All right. So that's the goal for today. Now, here's how I want you to think about your actual move. And it really does start about, how do you feel about doing this? And I can understand that moving and change is hard. Perfect example that I can give you is this. I have a client that is around 80 years old. She's a widow. And just this weekend, I helped her move from a 3,000 square foot home that she shared with her husband, who suddenly passed away 2 years ago, into a 55 plus community where she now has a really lovely home that is only 2 bedrooms, a small office, and then a general area. She loves the new space, but she had to downsize from 3,000 square feet to 1,600 square feet. And I can tell you that the time that I spent with her preparing for this move was over a year. And the actual move that she made this weekend was Friday and Saturday, and I spoke again with her today, was very, very stressful. And we understand that. As much as we prepared, as much as we planned, it was still stressful. But I know for a fact that if she did not do the preparation that we did, it would have been even worse. So I invite you to think about the decision of making a move and making these changes. And instead of right away thinking about this, oh my God, how I'm going to make this, and right, because the brain goes into the protection mode for you. And unfortunately, a lot of times those are negative thoughts. However, what you focus on expands. And I invite you to retrain yourself and just tell yourself, Janet, Olga, Bill, Donald, I am going to think about this move as making a right size move for me. I am going to be positive thinking about it. I'm not just going to be moving, I am going to be moving forward. We're not going to be fearful and worried, which you're still going to be, but we're going to be confident and positive with anticipation of the things to come. And you're going to hopefully go from feeling of leaving something behind and losing something to appreciating the new life that is going to unfold. And because you are all here, you're not going to feel like you're in a crisis, but being open to new opportunities, because that is what they are. An old door that is going to close, it doesn't mean that you are leaving things behind. That means that you are moving from one period and step in your life journey to something else, because it's time. So thinking about these things is important. All right, so now we're talking about downsizing because your home may not be the right fit for you anymore. So here are some things that I encourage you to think about in terms of, where am I going to live? A couple of things. So the first one that I want you to jot down your thoughts on is, depending where you are and where you live, do you want to stay in the same area, or perhaps you are thinking about relocating somewhere? A lot of the seniors and the conversations that I have with my clients in my practice evolves around different concerns and different things that are important. For example, if your health is deteriorating and you're looking for world-class healthcare, then we may potentially look at other states that have that. I actually have a YouTube channel that is dedicated to planning and living well in retirement. And there were a few videos that I have done that does talk about the top states that have the lowest cost of living, the best healthcare, the warmest climate, because all of you are going to have different important things that you need to consider. So for some of you, and actually for some of my clients, they relocated to Florida because overall Florida is the #1 state for no income tax, and weather is really nice, and there's some other considerations that people have. But then you also want to think about the fact that in summertime is like Floridian winter because people hide. So from April until the month of October is you can't really go outside during the day because it's impossible to breathe. So if you cannot handle the heat or you have maybe some breathing issues, that is something for you to consider. So I actually talked to a friend of my mom's yesterday who lives in Florida, and she's like, Olga, I can't stay here in the summer anymore. I need to go north because I just can't breathe. And we talked about a possibility of maybe finding something small for them to buy somewhere in upstate New York, or maybe even New Hampshire, Vermont, where it's not going to be as hot, where they can enjoy the summer. So just kind of food for thought. So making a decision of downsizing somewhere close is going to different than making a decision of potentially moving cross country or going to another state. That's one. And two, also consider the fact as to what a lot of people are thinking is like, well, my kids live, I am in Pennsylvania and my kids live in Chicago. I'm going to move closer to them. Well, depending on where your kids live, that is another consideration for you to make, because what if your kids need to make another move because of a job opportunity? Does that mean that you're going to, again, make another move, sell your home that you purchased to be near them, and then go somewhere else? So that is another food for thought. So jot some of your thoughts down and write down some of the pros and cons on the things that are important to you. So when we're actually looking at the space where you want to be, is think about the desired size of your home, the area that you want to live in, and the type of new home. This is where there are lots of options. You may want to just downsize into something that is a 1-story if you are in a big 2-story colonial and you don't want to do steps anymore, but you still want to be independent. You still want to garden. You still want to do all these things and be active, and that's perfectly okay. You can maybe go into a community like independent living 55 plus, where there's lots of things to do. There's a clubhouse, there's a pool and a gym, but maybe you don't want to take care of the lawn and the snow removal, depending where you are. Or there are also options where you can just buy a condo because you don't want to do any exterior maintenance. You just want to have your own space that you own. Or there are also just apartments. Some people just don't want to be homeowners anymore, and they don't want to be responsible for anything. They just want to call somebody to come and fix things. So all of these food for thought. The next thing, as I already mentioned to you, you will have to think about your health, your current health, as well as the health where you are going to see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years. And this is why having a notebook, I encourage you to jot down, have a serious conversation with yourself and say, okay, talk to yourself in the mirror if you really want to, but you know yourself best, and be honest with yourself. I can see myself maybe needing a walker in 10 years, or maybe that could be help with some personal care as well. So does that mean that we need to think ahead? And I can tell you that probably 95% of the people don't want to think about this because it is depressing. It is difficult to think about. And you say, well, you know what? I'm fine now. Well, guess what? The older you get, the more things can occur overnight and basically change everything that you have right now. Or your loved one falls, they have to go into a rehab, and then the doctor tells them, well, you cannot come back to your home anymore because you're going to fall again, and that is going to be a really big issue for your health. So have these conversations with yourself and make a decision on what is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years and how is that going to affect your decision-making process. And if you do want to stay in your home, which is a big percentage of you, I'm sure, and I completely understand that, is this option viable for you? Again, ask yourself some questions, and I encourage you to prepare and review a home safety assessment. I have this document for you. I'm going to send you a link to it if you want to do it yourself. It goes through every single room of your house, and it helps you and guide you in asking the questions. Number one thing, is your home safe for you now? And if it's not, what kind of modifications do you have to make in it to make sure that it's going to be safe for you for the next 10 or 20 years or longer if you truly want to spend your golden years in your home? Now let's look at actual senior living options. So this is where we're heading in the category of what is there available specifically for age 55 and older? What do those communities look like? I like this graph because it gives you a bird's eye view on what does this mean, and then as well as the cost and the level of care. I can also tell you that 100% of you don't realize the costs that are involved, how much this costs, and most of the people, unfortunately, don't save enough and they don't plan enough for these possibilities. As much as most of you are going to tell me, Olga, I am staying at my home. I don't care what anybody says. You can carry me out of here in the box. That is the best case scenario that's going to happen. However, the reality is that most of the people are going to have to get into some kind of care depending on their health situation. So if you look at this graph, the lowest level in care and supervision and the cost is going to be in adult daycare, which is a great place to socialize, which is very important in your golden years. There is some supervision, there is some food, entertainment, wellness, and just things to do and have a good time with others. Then you're heading into senior apartments, independent living like 55 plus, things like that. Then you're heading into the category of potentially heading into like assisted living, retirement community, CCRCs, which are the companies that are, it's like a campus is the way you want to think about it. And you know what? I visited one community last week that we have, and it's newer. And you know what? I walked around. It looks like a luxury hotel. And the sales director, when she was showing us the apartments, she's like, you know, a lot of the times people say that it looks like a cruise ship. And I said, absolutely. Just like if you guys are like going on cruises, or, you know, if you've been to one or two, this is very similar to some of the more modern communities that are being built and are not around. So I encourage you not to think of these places as a nursing home or a dreary place. It's far from it. You'll be pleasantly surprised to see how these communities have really turned around lately to help and cater and make sure that you have a very fulfilling retirement, yet you're also being protected and you can ask for assistance if needed. This is another great graph that when you get the recording, I encourage you to pause it and just take a look, because it'll give you a good idea as to what each community may offer in terms of amenities, because some of them you may not even thought of. And this is also going to help you when you are doing your pros and cons and maybe a budget plan to help you figure out what is it costing you to stay at home, and comparing to what is going to cost you to be in one of those cruise ship communities, as I call it now, and how much it's going to cost you to be there. You may be surprised that it might be cheaper for you to actually be in the community where a lot of these things are being taken care of for you as part of their concierge service, versus staying at home and having to do it all yourself. So take a look at this spreadsheet. When you have some time, jot down your notes, circle some things, and think about this a little bit more, because this is also going to give you really good food for thought. Now, the next step that I am inviting you to and encouraging you to consider is your finances. As I already mentioned to you, in my experience, and the research was done, that probably 60 to 70% of retirees or someone planning for retirement are not considering and don't have the finances and don't have enough planning done. So when should you do this? There is no better day than today. And it could be simple as jotting down your expenses and jotting down your income and what you have set aside on one sheet of paper in your notebook, So that way you have a clear one-page overview on what do you have to work with and what needs to be done. You need to understand what funds do you have, because some of these communities have entrance fees. There's a deposit that may be needed. Could this mean that you will need to sell your current home, because that is where most of your savings are tied into in order to buy a new home or in order to be able to rent in a new community? Who is your team that is helping you with your decision-making process? Remember, you don't know everything, and you need professionals to help you and guide you through this process. Who am I talking about here? A financial advisor, not just anybody, but somebody who is specifically working with a 55 plus baby boomer generation to help them figure out what they have saved, how they continue to save, and also how about to preserve what you have saved already. I have some suggestions here for you as well. Meeting with an attorney to help you with the life and estate planning. We're talking about elder care attorney, not just a general practice. You need someone who specializes in helping you plan for your retirement, for your asset protection, and helps you understand how it works. If you were to run out of funds, what happens then? Which housing option may be best for you based on the financial decisions? Because when you look at your financial picture, it may give you an idea on what can you afford and what are some of the things that may be just above your means. Please don't just call random advertisements and look for these professionals. Please ask for referrals. This is something that I am very, very adamant about. You need true professionals that are local to your market that know what they're doing. You can ask your family, friends, professional organizations for recommendations, for referrals. And of course, please reach out to me if you need a list of those professionals. So when we're talking about finances, this is the box that I have on the right that I am asking you to consider. Private pay is the language for things that you have saved, your savings, your income, and your pension payments as an example. Health insurance, what does that look like in your situation? Your Medicare, your private health insurance if you have something, long-term care insurance that you can use to cover a lot of the expenses. What are your assets? These are the things that you have, like your home equity, your retirement accounts, your life insurance. If you're a veteran or a spouse, a lot of the times veterans forget that they have some great benefits in addition to their pension. There's aid and attendance, there's survivor's pension, there's disability compensation, there's insurance. And you definitely want to talk to an organization that specializes in helping you getting these things set up if you don't have them in place. And if there is a public assistance available to you, depending on your income threshold, for things like Medicaid, which is a state-run program, and it does vary from state to state, as well as Medicaid waivers. So with regards to Medicaid, this is where an elder care attorney is crucial to talk to help you plan for when you run out of funds, and what does that mean for you in terms of your care. Next up is a challenging but very important step. This is where I encourage you to have an honest conversation with your loved ones. And I don't recommend that you do it on the phone. You really should do this in person. And these loved ones can be your family members, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins. It could be your friends. It could be anyone that is important to you. They don't have to be related to you. However, what is this group of people that you rely on, that you love, that you may have to ask for help? And these are some of the things that I encourage you to talk to your loved ones about. Your important documents, your directive, your will, legal documents, your list of accounts, digital asset inventory. Think about your online accounts and what are those passwords that you may be the only one that knows and has access to. What about your insurance? If you at some point may not be able to make decisions, who do you designate as your power of attorney during the time of your living to help you make those decisions? And then who is going to be in charge after you pass away to help with finances, with your assets, with distribution. You need to think about these things now ahead of time, because if something were to happen to you and you don't have these things in place, it's going to be very expensive and time consuming, and most of the time a loss of funds, loss of money, that's for sure. Let your loved ones know who is your attorney, your financial advisor, and your accountant, and what are your wishes. So here is the difficult decisions of, if you are not capable of making decisions, if you are on life support, how long do you want to stay on it? Or do you want to be taken off? Do you want to be an organ donor? These are all very stressful decisions to make for your loved ones. And if they don't know what your wishes are, how can they make decisions that they believe are going to be in your best interest based on what you have preferred and wanted? So these are just some of the things that you will need to talk about. And as you can see, we're talking about this being just an overview, but there is quite a lot for you to consider. Next, let's talk about your things, your possessions. What are you going to be taking with you to your new place? I guarantee you that all of you are going to underestimate just how many things, personal possessions that you have accumulated over the years of being in your home. And that is just a fact of life. And the perfect example that I can give you was the one that my client that is almost 80 years old that moved this weekend. She downsized from a 3,000 square foot home that she has called home since her 90s. And she was trying to cram quite a few things in just 1,600 square feet. And if it wasn't for a 2-car garage, we would have been in trouble because she ran out of space. She really did. So what I encourage you to do, and I know it's very hard for an older generation, is to let go of more things than to take them with you. Consider really, really slimming down and paring down, because creating that airspace in your new home is only going to give you that more positive energy and feeling well, and allow you to actually sleep better, because the studies have shown that as well. So how do you do that? You create some sort of floor plan for your new home and decide on what is the minimum square footage that you're willing to have. Could it be 2 bedrooms and an office? Could it be just 1 bedroom and a den? What does that look like? And then I encourage you, even though you may not be thinking about moving right away, the sooner you start to declutter and get rid of things, the better you're going to feel when the time comes for you to make that moving decision. One of the easiest things you can do, and this is what I took from our declutter workshop that we do every month, is just sorting things in a few different categories. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, but it could be things that we're going to keep, things we're going to donate, some things that maybe we may want to sell because they're worth something, things that we're just going to throw away. And the last category is your important papers. Set aside a colorful box or tote, but start putting all of your important things in there that you do not want to lose and you may actually need for reference. So that's it. That's all I want you to focus on right now in terms of what am I taking with me and what am I not taking with me. The hardest things to get rid of is big, bulky furniture. Think your dining room hutch. If you're not going to take it with you, get rid of it now. You may be able to salvage the bottom piece because you can use that as a TV stand, but the top of the hutch where you keep your china, nobody wants. Unfortunately, that is something that is going to be ending in a landfill, unfortunately. Next thing, as you're looking at this and you can realize that this is a big process, who can help you from start to finish? Absolutely, there is help for you. And this is where I decided to focus and partner with others to help you and become a senior specialist in this industry and work with baby boomers. And the difference is that I understand what it takes to help someone who is a senior to move. And it's not something that you can quickly make a decision and downsize in the next month. Of course, we've had that situation and we've helped those clients. However, it is a process. Understand that, and
It's gonna get worse. It's supposed to have very heavy rain
help
this
of other
afternoon.
professionals. Who are these professionals? It could be someone who is an organizer, somebody to help you with estate sale and getting rid of things, auctions, cleaning, packing and moving service, cleaners, and anyone else that you can think of.
What's that? Tomorrow, Thursday. Thursday.
So here's what I want you to understand is that the things that you don't want to take with you, I don't want you to worry, because this is where we come in and we help you to make arrangements for those things to be sold, to be donated, to be removed, and you absolutely will have help. The saying that you see on the right that says happiness is a place between too little and too much, it is very much true. And I can tell you that even my lady of 80 years old who just moved this weekend, at the end, I know it's very stressful, and she's resting the beginning of this week because I talked to her this morning. She was very happy to finally get out of her house that she loved tremendously, but she knew it was just not the right place for her anymore. So please join us for the decluttering workshop that we have every month. I'm happy to help you brainstorm and figure out how we can make it happen. So what about your home? I encourage you, even though you may not be deciding to make a move at this point, to know and understand, because for a majority of you, your home is an important part of your retirement planning, and perhaps one big thing that you have to rely on for making plans for your next home. So what we do usually is figure out what are the current market conditions in your city, in your neighborhood, what you can expect from the sale. What does that look like? If you haven't moved in 20 and 30 years, believe me, the process has changed. And also in the last 3 years, the equity in homes for majority of you has increased tremendously. Do you know what that means for you and your financial situation? This is something that I do on a regular basis with clients. We talk on the phone, we do Zoom calls, we just chat, and I'm happy to prepare these reports so that way you can add them to your folder when you're talking to your attorney, to your financial planner, and your accountant, because all this information is very, very important that they need to know in order to help you make your plans. We also talk about conditions for the sale. Could it be that we may need to plan and do some repairs to help you get the most amount of money possible out of your home when you're ready? Or it may make sense just to sell it in as-is condition because there is a necessity for a quick sale. So everybody's situation is different. So that is what we talk about to arm you with the information and the numbers to help you with your planning process. And I do have a separate workshop in our senior series where we talk about it. What does that mean to plan your actual move, getting your home ready to sell? What does that look like step by step when you are in that part of your journey? So if you are one of the kids or maybe a family members that you are trying to work on assisting them during this transition phase, I also want you to look at this from a little bit different angle. Think about who is important to the senior and where they're located. Create a senior network map, the meaningful people in your loved one's life. Could it be senior center friends, church group, neighbors, family members? It could be other people that they see on a regular basis that they really enjoy interaction and trust. It could be hairdresser, mailmen, doctors. Also think about how their mental health and quality of life is going to be affected if they were removed from that network circle and they can no longer see or talk to these people. And this is the conversation timeline that I am suggesting to you, that I want you to look at and see, does that make sense for you to talk to your loved one? And as you can see, it is not just one conversation, it's probably quite a few of them during a time frame to help them realize that maybe a move is a necessity because of their current condition, because of their health circumstances, financial circumstances, or something else. And what if you don't want to make a move? What if you say, Olga, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, but you know what? I am going to stay at home. I understand 77% of Americans aged 50 and older want to remain in their home during the golden years. I understand that. But I also want you to again analyze and think about, what about my home? How do I make my home as safe as possible? So for a lot of us, where your equity and a lot of your retirement funds, quite frankly, is tied into your home, there are some options that you can consider. And one of them may be, not for a lot of you, but for some of you, a reverse mortgage may be an option. Now, before you tell me how reverse mortgage is a scam, because unfortunately it has gotten a lot of bad reputation because of the scams that were going around, I encourage you to watch a video that I did with Ken.sawan. Ken is a reverse mortgage specialist. That is all he has done since the beginning of his career and almost at the beginning of the reverse mortgage industry process up until today. That is all he does. He has great conversations with clients. He asks them a lot of questions, and then he suggests to them either if this is a good move or it's not a good move. So I'm going to send you a link to that video that you can take a look at, because what I did is I wrote down my own questions. I talked to my parents and I talked to my clients, and I put all of those questions to him. He said, bring everything you got. There's not a question that I'm not going to answer. And it was a very, very good discussion to help you understand what reverse mortgage is. How can you do that? What are some of the qualifications to help you make a decision if this could be something that you may want to do. In terms of aging in place, which is what it's called when you're trying to stay in your home during your golden years, I do have a separate webinar in our senior series that we also do on a regular basis. And if you want to watch the recordings of this webinar, then I will point you in the right direction also on our YouTube channel. So here is what my suggestion is at this point. I know I talked about a lot of things and some of you may feel overwhelmed. And the reason is because this is an overview and I'm really touching upon just the tip of each of the important considerations that do come up in the process of you making a decision on whether you want to move, what does that look like, and where can I go? This link called Senior Resources Library is where you can get your free guides and the checklist and the home safety assessment that I have mentioned to you. I'll send that to you. You can take a look at it. Our schedule for our other workshops is always on this Live with Olga link. And I'm going to send you this information as well. And also you can check and see when we are going to be hosting other parts of our senior series. And here's the link to the 2 YouTube channels that I have. Olga St. Pierre is the channel all about living well in retirement and living well and planning for retirement. And the second YouTube channel, At Home with Olga, is where I have the webinar recordings and other helpful videos. And I know that some of you may want to talk to me privately. I am giving you my personal cell phone number that I use for work and my email address. You are welcome to reach out to me anytime. There is no wrong question. There is no stupid question. Everything is important. And I do answer all of my phone calls myself. And I'm happy to talk to you about your concerns, about your thoughts, to help you and point you in the right direction, because this is what I love. And I do it with passion every day. And sometimes it does happen every 7 days a week. So, I truly do enjoy helping people. So this is what I have to share with you today. I know it was a lot. So what I encourage you to do is when you get a recording and the link to the workbook, take your time, grab a notebook, and just jot down some of the thoughts first on what's bothering you, what's on your mind. And then you can just take it one step at a time, one bit at a time, to help you with planning your own process and helping you plan for your own golden years. So at this time, if you have questions, and you are welcome to unmute yourself, or if you want just to post them in the chat, please do. And I'm going to remind you, if you have not given me your contact information, please do. Let me just take a look and see on, I have got some messages, so let me confirm with you on what. Okay. Lana, I have your email. Thank you. Joyce, I have yours. Thank you. Don, I have yours as well. And I have JR. All right. Anybody else has questions? Anything that maybe you want to point out, anything that you want us to brainstorm at this time, you are welcome to. We're hanging out together.
Olga,
Yes,
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, Lana.
I'd like to thank you. It was very informative. I'm on the early stage of this process. Everything you said is, I like your approach, and everything you said is very important for me. So thank you so much.
Of
I'm
course.
glad I heard this information.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you also, Olga.
Of course, Joyce.
I have a question. You only do